Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing Sports. In boxing, you find a way to win or you find a way to lose. Please make sure to like this video. If you enjoy it, also consider subscribing to the channel. Now listen, someone left a comment yesterday where we were talking about the big tournament that's supposed to take place later this year with, Deontay Wilder, Anthony Joshua, Tyson Fury, and Usyk. And in the comment, a person was like, why is the heavyweight division being dominated by the British fighters? And I had to stop and collect myself for a second, because there was a time where I think we'd all agree in recent years that the heavyweight division was bubbling, and the British heavyweights, I mean, like they were doing what they were supposed to do. But today, to come and say British fighters are dominating the heavyweight division, I don't know. So when it comes to British fighters, right, heavyweight fighters, who is dominating the heavyweight division right now? Because more than one person can be dominating. Okay, I'm not saying who's the best. I'm saying who out there in the UK who's a heavyweight is dominating. That's my question. All right. So you talk about someone who's still actually being ranked across the sanctioning bodies, right? You got Dillian White. What is he doing? Who and what is he dominating? Okay, is he still a player when it comes to the heavyweight division? He's a name, a player, I don't know, but he's definitely a name. But as far as him dominating, come on now, let's be real. All right. So outside of Dillian White, you got Tyson Fury. Is he dominating? I don't think there's any argument, whether you're a Tyson Fury fan or not, that Tyson Fury is a British fighter who has proven that he can dominate just about anyone you put in the ring with him when it comes to heavyweights. Now, I'm going to tell you this. Tyson Fury, although we know he can box, although we know that he's proven that he can switch it up, Tyson Fury be fighting dirty, man. I got a video coming on him. But nonetheless, Tyson Fury has proven that he's dominating, man. You got to get a man credit, right? You got to get a man credit. And everybody tries to get away with a little bit of cheap stuff, okay? So it is what it is. Anthony Joshua, okay? Is he dominating the heavyweight division? We just saw his recent outing with Jermaine Franklin. We saw him come up for 2 losses against Usyk. We saw him clip Pulev. Then we saw him clip Andrew Ruiz and then lose to Andrew Ruiz. So this Anthony Joshua today, I tell you what, he's not Dillian White. But he's not Tyson Fury either. But is he dominating the heavyweight division? I think it's still safe to say that Anthony Joshua has all the potential in the world to dominate fighters in the heavyweight division. And I'm not talking about this whole thing, but I'm a thinking man. I'm not a bruiser. I'm intelligent. I have skills. Not this Anthony Joshua today who wants to get in there and enter a tickling contest. Now, I'm talking about the guy who was a carnivore, who was a lion, not the pussycat running around here today. But if Anthony Joshua decides he wants to flip the switch, he can more than dominate these heavyweights. I think Joshua can beat everybody. But it's just not the Joshua we have. But at the end of the day, he is a British heavyweight fighter who's accomplished. Look at his amateur pedigree to what he's done now. And whether people agree or not, he has helped to carry the heavyweight division and the sport of boxing as a whole for a lot of years, right? We got to be fair to him. Then you got Joe Joyce. Look, he lost to Zhilei Zhang. Zhang is just a powerful southpaw. Joyce has some things to work on, right? Kind of like Ryan Garcia, some fundamentals that he needs to work on. Joe Joyce has some fundamentals he has to work on. I think Joe Joyce has those fundamentals. He's just choosing, since he's become a pro, to just throw a lot of stuff out the window because he has a granite chin and just say, you know what, my chin and my balls, that should be enough for me to win fights. And he didn't go down to Zhang. He did get buzzed, but she's gotten buzzed in other fights, but he didn't go down. The referee stopped the fight. If he would allow Joe Joyce to continue, he would have continued. And I think if it would have continued, he would have kept taking damage. But I think the tide would have turned. So that being said, if there's a rematch, we're going to see how that goes. There's no question about Joe Joyce and his stamina, right? So we got to be real about that. Now, outside of those four, as far as British heavyweights, okay, what do you have? Daniel Dubois. Is he dominating? Well, he's a big name. Got to give him credit, right? Now you look at Daniel Dubois. He's a WBA World Heavyweight Champion. Whether you agree with it or not, he's there. You got to give him credit. And he's a British fighter. But once you come and you take a look at this rack and stack of the heavyweights, you can see that you have Usyk, who's from Ukraine. We know Ukrainians aren't dominating anything. You just have Usyk as the only one at the heavyweight division that's making noise. Then you got Fury, then you got Wilder, who's American, AJ, Shane, Chinese, Ruiz Jr. Don't know if he wants to be American or if he's going to be Mexican, but I understand when parents come from another country, you're born here. Culture is culture. Doesn't matter if Ruiz Jr. was born in Africa. He will still be repping from Mexico because culture is culture. But at the end of the day, he's born on American soil, so he's American. White, fighting for British, fighting for the UK, Joyce, Ortiz, Cuban, Parker, New Zealand, Hrgovic, Croatia, right? Not many Americans in there. When you look at these flags, you see you got 1, 2, 3 UK fighters. So if we're going to go off of this ring ranking, you got to say, since they have the 3 British fighters there, that they're dominating, of the 4 British fighters, that they're dominating the heavyweight division. Now, what I will say is this. When you come down here and you look, right, at these names, when you look at the rankings, the WBO, IBF, WBC, and WBA, and we start to go down, like for Frank Sanchez, I know he's Cuban, but when I think of Cuban, Frank Sanchez and Luis Ortiz, they live in the States and fight in the States. I almost want to say that they're American fighters, but, they're not. But when you look at Wilder, Jared Anderson, you come over, you look Andy Ruiz, you got Wilder, and you come down, Charles Martin. He's still a name. Is he a player? Is he dominating the heavyweight division? I would say if we're going to sit there and say Dillian White is, then I say we got to say Charles Martin is. Just being honest with you. If we're going to sit there and say Dillian White is still a force to be reckoned with, then we got to say Charles Martin is a force to be reckoned with. Out of the history of heavyweight boxing with the highest KO percentages, Charles Martin is ranked in the top 10, for those of you who didn't know. But at the same time, we just got to take a look at just how many fights he's had and how many knockouts. I mean, he has under 35 fights. But when these guys start getting up to 50, 60 fights, we'll see if they can continue knocking people out if they fight that long. Then you'll see, as far as the rack and stack of the highest KO percentage in the heavyweight division, you'll see that list change drastically. You come over to the WBC, you got Wilder, Ruiz, Jared Anderson again. Then you come over here to the WBA. For American fighters, you got Anderson, you got a guy named Jonathan Guidry, then you got Gerald Miller. And for the most part, that's really it. So as far as heavyweights, American heavyweight fighters and the British heavyweight fighters, when we really take a look at who's making noise and who's dominating, whether we like it or not, I think the guys whose names are more known, and they've had, and I'm going to tell you this, they've been very smart out there, the promoters in the UK. And fortunately for them, they've been able to take Chisora, Price, been able to take AJ, take Fury, take Dillian White. And then you have Parker, who's from New Zealand, but he's hanging out in the UK. They've been able to take these guys and fight them a lot, bringing the TACAMs over. So they've had, I'm going to say, more opportunities. And I'm not saying they're at fault. What I'm saying is their promoters are keeping them active. They get a lot more support from their own country. and the boxing fans in their country than kind of here in the United States. So as far as them dominating, I'd have to say yeah. I'd have to say yeah. You know, I can't even say someone needs to hold their horses and not to take it to the stupid. I'd have to say yes. You look at Joe Joyce, he medaled. Anthony Joshua, he medaled. I mean, that matters. Dillian White started later, and look what he's been able to accomplish. You know, so all those things come into play when I start really thinking about dominating the guys who are dominating boxing or dominating a heavyweight division. And when I look at the American fighters, as far as heavyweights, look, you got some guys here who aren't ranked, but let me tell you, they got a guy named Ricardo Torres, who's out of, I think it's Temecula, California. Let me tell you something. He's an Olympian. I think he's a silver medalist. He can fight, but he's not on this list. But I will tell you this, in the next year, you're going to see a turnover in all these weight divisions as far as the guys who are going on to become champions or becoming ranked in the top 5, top 10. And in particular, in the heavyweight division, you're going to see a huge turnover. And I think we're going to definitely see more Americans in these lists in the top 10, top 15. Now, will the tide turn where all the money now shifts over to America? Let me tell you something. In my opinion, Saudi Arabia, the Middle East is where it's going. Now, will it last? I don't know. But I just got to be honest about where the money is right now and the direction it's going. And this may be an opportunity for all fighters, irregardless of weight division, to go over to the Middle East and get their money. But as far as being able to fight and fight consistently, it seems to be that the UK is where it's at. They always have fights going on. And you can say what you want about Eddie Hearn. If you're on Eddie Hearn's roster and you're doing the business, he's going to keep you active and he's going to pay you. Over here in the States, I just did a video. Anybody who's signed over there to PBC, man, you know, it's just a pipe building up with pressure. At some point, it has to explode. Look at how many fighters from different weight divisions that are basically in a holding pattern. It's ridiculous. So right now, if we want to seriously take a look at the heavyweights or other, I'd say the heavyweights in particular, and as far as them dominating, when we look at the last 5, 6 years, you'd have to say that the UK fighters are handling their business. And that's not me being biased to the UK fighters. That's not me being unfair to American fighters. That's just the reality of it, man. You know, outside of Deontay Wilder for the States, I mean, who do we really have? Andy Ruiz. You know, guys over here who are heavyweights. Charles Martin. You had Gerald Washington. You know, I mean, don't get me wrong. Dominic Brazil. I mean, they were in the mix. But the thing is, who's getting the opportunities? When is Gerald Washington gonna get another big opportunity? You know, these guys are all in a holding pattern. I don't know what happened to Dominic Brazil, but the point I'm trying to make out is, again, it comes down to opportunities. I'm sure if Dominic Brazil had another opportunity to fight, he would, but I don't know. He just totally disappeared. If Gerald Washington had more opportunities to fight, I'm sure he would. But you look at what's going on out there, how Chisora, because of just the relationship with Tyson Fury, he gets an opportunity. His relationship with Eddie Hearn, he's getting to fight out. He's getting to fight people out there in the UK. Dillian White, I mean, come on, man, he's getting opportunities. Okay, but when Dillian White falls off, when Chisora falls off, you know, then what happens? Because I just think the shelf life on Dillian White and Chisora, I just think it's about expired. But that being said, there's so much more when it comes to looking at these guys and dominating the division. We talk about money and just what they've been able to accomplish, like their accolades. It's kind of hard to not say that the British heavyweight fighters haven't handled their business. But again, I think it has a lot to do with opportunities and willing to just get in the ring and just fight. You know what I'm saying? But that being said, there's so much more we can talk about. I just want to give you a short and sweet on it. That's my opinion, man. Our British fighters dominating the heavyweight division. I'd say about 5, 6 years ago, it was a strong yes. But right now, today, is just a yes. And in a year from now, it may be more of a no. Especially as we see if Jared Anderson can do the business and these other guys who are coming up to start getting the opportunities, man, and get out of these holding patterns. You just don't know. Gerald Washington and Charles Martin may have a good run next year. Now you got Gerald Washington back in the mix, Charles Martin back in the mix. Because they're basically in the same position that Dillian White's in my opinion. You know what I'm saying? Daniel Dubois about to lose to Usyk. Can Daniel Dubois beat Gerald Washington? Can Daniel Dubois beat Charles Martin? But would they put Daniel Dubois in with a Martin or Gerald Washington? No. So there won't be the opportunity. But I personally think Charles Martin beats Dubois. I personally think Gerald Washington beats him. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what I think. The reality right now is the UK heavyweights are handling business. It doesn't matter if you want to peel the layers back. Just right now for what we're dealing with, right? That's a fact. And we'll see what happens at the end of the year and definitely by the time we reach summer of next year. We're going to see how things are looking. That being said, y'all keep cool. Shout out to the veterans, all 7 continents. In the breeze.